Hey guys, I'm Chris.
Hey everybody, I'm Robert.
And we're the Film Flamers.
And we are here to open up Pride Month with our normal Shooting the Flames.
That's right. This is the episode every month where we talk about all of the new trailers and news in the horrorverse, as well as all the comments and questions from you, our listeners.
That's right. Can we also talk about Texas Frightmare?
Yeah, we did attend that thing, didn't we?
We did. We did the thing.
Moving on, we have a lot of new reviews.
As y'all recall, the last time we talked about Texas Frightmare on this podcast, we got a frightening voicemail from a director of which we saw his film at that horror convention. And I guess for those of you who don't know, Texas Frightmare is like the premier horror convention in Texas, up here in North Texas.
Yeah.
And we had not been to this convention since that fateful director trip. But, they've moved to a new location that we thought would be a little better for them.
Right, because the last location was, I don't know, someone with an extra chromosome decided it was going to be in the middle of the airport.
Yeah, it was like the airport Hojo in the basement of the airport Hojo. And it was just like really tight and confined and whatnot. And
horrible parking.
Yeah.
It was atrocious. People are like running through highways in the middle of the fucking DFW airport. And if you don't know what DFW airport is, it's larger than Manhattan.
Yeah, it's a special hell for everybody.
Right. So anyway, they moved to the Hellmouth, which we lovingly call Irving.
Yeah.
And at the convention center there, which is much, much better venue, but they can't get their shit together to just scan people's badges that they had bought before, right? And so it's like we were waiting for, I want to say, over an hour.
Yeah.
Just to get in so that some lady could like psychotically tie a ribbon around my wrist when we already had all of the scannable barcodes that we had bought. So it was just stupid.
Due to having lives as adults, we could only go to one night of this 3-day convention. And so, we're trying to like fit everything in. And, mostly we're there to like browse the merch or whatever and like spy on celebrities. And there were a lot of celebrities that I wouldn't have minded like having a moment with, getting an autograph or something, like sort of fangirling.
Yeah.
But like it was surprisingly crowded. And I feel like this convention is growing and growing year after year.
Somehow,
yeah. And I feel like they've even outgrown an entire convention center at this point.
Except that I feel like at the airport one, like there was a lot more celebrities back in the day.
I know, there's a
huge
lot.
amount. Like this time there was only like 4, and last time there was like 30.
Well, and then the thing is that this is the 3-level convention center that I feel like they were underutilizing some of its like areas, because they had like 3 celebrities that were sort of like cordoned off that you had to get some sort of virtual ticket to go to a second level to see.
Yeah.
Juliette Lewis, I guess I could maybe see, but like the 2 guys from Lost Boys.
Yeah. They put them all like on the 3rd level, except for poor guy who plays the monster in every Guillermo del Toro movie.
Oh, his line was long too, Doug Jones.
Yeah, Doug Jones. But you just like walk in the entrance and there he is. It's like, poor guy.
And then his line's off to the side.
Yeah.
I really, really wanted to see Eli Roth. You know what I mean? So I could like take off my panties and show him my hole or whatever. But like, wow, the line was too long for that too. And so I was just like, okay, well, I guess this is our one night. We got some stuff.
I did. I got a lot of vinyls.
You made a haul on vinyls.
Yeah, a lot of those are sold out or you can't get them, as easily. So I was able to buy vinyls at 2 different booths.
And I got some vinyls as well. I got the Clue soundtrack, which I love, and a really, really cool vinyl edition of Return of the Living Dead.
Yep.
So, and I got shirts. So I mean, like
the Ring vinyl, which is really weird, because like they never released the Ring soundtrack until the Ring 2, and so they called it like the Ring movies soundtracks or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was like a combined score. So this is the first time that it's like been isolated, and so like I've been listening to that vinyl. Also got like Dark Crystal, which is tough, like a special edition of like the Mondo one for like Dune.
There were lots of cool stuff, but it seemed like it was way too crowded for me to sort of like enjoy. And maybe I'm becoming a little bit more introverted in my old age, or maybe I just don't have the patience that I used to when I was younger. But I was just like, oh, there's so many people. Like, I couldn't stop to like look and enjoy and all that shit. So
yeah, and I wasn't as interested in some of the stuff. Like they had just had a huge amount of just like tchotchke kind of, soaps with the imprint of Freddy on them or something, shit like that.
Yeah.
Just posters, redrawn posters, t-shirts of posters, and that's basically the whole thing. So I don't know. I'd really have to see or have a draw to go back to this thing again.
I feel like I should have had more than just the one beer, and maybe I would have been a little bit more likely to elbow someone out of my way to look at whatever I wanted.
Maybe if they ask us to have a booth or something.
I think we have to buy the booth.
Well, fuck that.
Yeah. I mean, we could do that. Guys, if we had a booth at Texas Frightmare where we weren't selling anything, would you just come over to say hi? Would y'all make a pilgrimage to see us?
Honestly, the best thing would be to set up a little table at that fucking line. That's right. Just talk to everyone that walks by.
Yeah, we'll just stand by and
we'll hand out water bottles.
Like, oh, you look thirsty. I know the line is long.
Have a film flamer water bottle.
Ooh, it's filled with vodka.
Anyway, we should move on.
Yeah, let's do it. We finally got some more reviews. I think we had none last month, but we have 2 this month.
Yeah, so the first one's from Purple Soda. And they said, the sweetest of podcasting dreams. This podcast is hands down my favorite in the land of commentary podcasting. I don't often listen to much outside of audio fiction, but Chris and Robert have a naturally engaging dynamic that makes me feel involved in the conversation in every episode. They're fun, witty, and best of all, they don't take themselves too seriously, even if they are a bit highfalutin. Thanks for making this type of quality content, and keep the episodes coming.
Thank you, Purple Soda. We love an in-joke.
Yes.
Very much. We also got one from J Tangina 84. I have been listening to the Film Flamers now for a few years, along with several other horror movie podcasts, and Chris and Robert are the only ones that have stood the test of time for me. Their format never grows tired by mixing it up with episodes that go into thoughtful deep dives on long-forgotten movies, to quick thoughts and new releases, and also relevant and interesting news on new horror movies coming out in the future. You can tell they really appreciate horror movies and all that goes into making them, and they really scratch the cinephile itch for me. Oh, I think there's a salve for that. The Film Flamers are a cut above the rest, so if you are sick of all the same tired old horror podcasts done in the morning zoo format, try these guys out and you may find a renewed sense of love, a nostalgia boner, if you will, for this genre of film again.
Gosh, how many coins do we have at this point? Nostalgia boner and horror adjacency, apparently.
Highfalutin.
Highfalutin. We didn't make these things up. We just put our stank on it.
That's right.
We put our salve on it.
We just said them so many times that other people did too. Put our salve on it. That cinephile itch.
Thank you very much, Tangina.
That's right. Thank you guys for those reviews. We love getting them. And like we say on every episode toward the end, just in case you skip those parts, we're inching ever closer to 100 ratings and reviews over on Apple Podcasts and iTunes.
Like 5, literally 5 more.
So close, y'all. We can do this in a month's time. Head over to Apple Podcasts or iTunes, leave us a review, 5-star review, and we'll read that on the next Shooting the Flames.
We got a lot of comments this episode.
A lot.
Like a lot, yeah.
From our bonus episode, which is our hot take on Tusk, Nikki over on Patreon said, thanks for doing this movie. Hubby and I had no backstory when we watched it, so as it got more ridiculous, we were along for the ride. Not a good movie per se, but it did lead to a good discussion about the ridiculousness of it. I enjoy rides like that.
It's basically our episode.
Yeah, you summed up our episode, Nikki.
Basically. Yeah, I enjoyed like the parts of it more than I did the sum of it. You know what I mean? It's one of those.
Yeah.
From our May 24 poll, our second annual May 24 poll, GWilliamNYC over on Patreon said, I am liking the 0 votes for It Comes at Night. What a nothing burger of a movie.
Nothing burger.
Yeah. A lot of people like that movie.
They do, and I don't like to shit on people's likes or whatever, but I kind of agree with you. And I think we added it because we needed something from A24 to round it out.
Yeah, and again, like a lot of people, I think my sister really likes that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I should probably watch it again. I've only seen it the one time. So, GlazedDonut over on Patreon said, I feel like whatever I choose is not going to win, but I'm strangely okay with that. Even an A24 dud is interesting.
That's right, and I was It's interesting that we got so much love for Lamb. Speaking of which, Joanne said, I am really hoping for Lamb, but I suspect the spectacle that is Tusk will win. Either way, I look forward to hearing your breakdown. As usual, we're moving backwards through time with our comments.
Yeah.
So, yes, spoiler alert, Lamb did not win.
It did not. Although I love that she calls it a breakdown. You know what I mean? So I feel like we would be crying into the microphone when we're talking about
I was going to ask that. I was going to be like, do you mean like our emotional breakdown after watching that movie?
BattleBurrito over on Patreon said, oh God, are we going to have to watch Tusk?
Spoiler alert. Yes.
Yes.
Random Dude over on Patreon said, it's been so long since I've seen Tusk, but I still remember being kind of traumatized over it, similar to how I felt after watching The Human Centipede. I'm hoping it's a ghost story, just so I can hear you talk about the pie eating scene, but I actually want to hear you guys think of In Fabric, a film about a killer dress inspired by Dario Argento. What's not to love? We did talk about that movie, I think, in some sort of Hot Takes episode, I thought.
In Fabric?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did a Hot Takes episode, and it was part of it.
Or it could have been a year-end review.
Or something like that. Because I know that In Fabric was in my top 10 the year it came out.
Yeah.
So I really like In Fabric. It's a weird movie, but I love it.
Yeah, I'd watch it again. Also, Random Dude said, how was Toni Collette not nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress? Right? I think we said that in the episode.
I will always be flabbergasted by that. And I know that we did talk about that kind of at length in that episode, but you're right.
Yeah.
James over on Patreon said, no, not Tusk. Please, no.
Too bad.
All these comments. so nobody voted for Tusk, but it won.
It won by like a landslide.
It got the most votes by a lot, but no one seemed to want to watch it. How did this happen, patrons?
I don't know.
But funny.
From our top 10 jump scares episode, we got a lot of comments. People really, really wanted this episode, and we didn't even know it.
I know the amount of comments that we got on Patreon before it was officially released on the main feed.
Some sort of record, I think.
Yeah, it was like astounding to me. And I mean, it's been a while since we've gotten a lot of comments from like social media, and there were some comments from Instagram on this too. And I think by far lately it got the most likes on Instagram.
Yeah, we even got emails about it. So that's coming up. Wallstritch over on Patreon said, such a fun episode. Terrified and When Evil Lurks jumped to the top of my watch list. My fave that wasn't mentioned is Billy at the video store in Scream. Randy's lecture about prom night plays for laughs, and then boom, Billy. Matthew Liu's face is diabolical. Craven put so many tiny jumps in Scream, but this one stands out for me. Can definitely relate to a nerd running his mouth and then immediately backpedaling. So yeah, that made me jump, I think, too, several times when watching this, but there's also the Billy at the window jump scare.
Yep.
Right? And so it's like we needed kind of a stand-in for Scream. So we should have actually mentioned that as an honorable mention.
We should have.
Good call out, Wallstritch.
Yeah. Nikki over on Patreon said, AbFab episode, I felt so vindicated when my top jump scares were also yours. I hollered yes with my triumphant fist in the air when you announced it. Exorcist 3. I saw it in the theater before I really loved horror, and my cousin and I literally jumped out of our seats and screamed. It's at the top of my list, but I also co-signed on all the ones on your list that I've seen.
Right. People have really jumped out of their skin.
Well, because there's a reason why it's where it is on our countdown.
Right. And then, of course, I sent you, I think after the fact, the reaction video of everyone watching Haunting of Hill House.
Yep. And those were really funny.
Rosie Red Leader over on Patreon said, thank you for such a great episode. Love listening to you guys while meal prepping for the week. So glad that you mentioned Signs. For me, that entire movie is just full of jump scares. I think it's because it was a scary movie I saw at a younger age, but to this day, so much of it makes me jump, especially the Alien TV scene, right? Same goes for The Sixth Sense. Not so much stuff jumping out, but more so the way all the horrible images were presented. I think it's also important to mention that the majority of the jump scares on this list would not be possible without the addition of music and sound editing. 100%.
Yep. I think that's why I call it a Dolby Shock, right?
Right. And actually, I've seen a lot of people mention The Sixth Sense, like the little girl under the table.
Yep.
Right. Is the moment from Sixth Sense that jumps out at them. No pun intended.
Wasn't that the girl from the OC or whatever? Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't watch OC.
Well, my God. Julia90 Allison over on Patreon said, just hearing you describe the scene from Terrified creeped me out. I'll be sure to watch it now. Everything else I had seen except for Exorcist 3, but I've seen that scene when I watched the 101 Scariest Horror Movie Moments of All Time, which is a TV miniseries from 2022 on Bravo. And even then, seeing it out of context scared me. I highly recommend that documentary for casual viewing when you have a mundane task to get done on the couch. I would have probably put the red-faced man from Insidious higher only because it amazed me at the setup and the tension in the storytelling from the mother character and wrapping it, with all that tall-ass freak joining them at the table. Glad to hear Haunting of Hill House made the cut, as I wasn't sure if you'd included TV. I'm trying to brainstorm more top 10 episodes ideas for ya, as I love them. When you spoke of Dallas's character dying and the impact that it had on the story, it made me think that maybe you could do a top 10 character deaths. Oh. But characters that actually matter. Horror is notorious for not letting us get to know characters and killing them off far too fast. So exploring the deaths of impactful demises could be fun. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really impactful one, right? Because the whole kind of movie shifts after Dallas dies because he's the captain, right?
Yeah.
You know, also thinking of like horror adjacent stuff like Gandalf dying, you know, things like that.
I think there are a lot of movies where like you anticipate a character to live for a very long period of time, either based upon the actor playing it or like where they are in the movie.
Sam Jackson and Deep Blue Sea.
Exactly. Or fucking Drew Barrymore in Scream. Yeah. It's kind of a shocking death.
Famously.
You know, and so I feel like that's a really good top 10 episode that we're going to jot down for a possible
one of
docket.
the astronauts in 2001 A Space Odyssey, yeah. And the whole crew of 2001 A Space Odyssey.
Good. That's a really, really good suggestion. Thank you, Julia.
Right. Alex over on Patreon said, I'm so happy that When Evil Lurks got an official honorable mention. I completely clutched my pearls and shrieked when that scene happened. A must watch. And of course, he's talking about the dog scene.
Yeah.
From When Evil Lurks. And I do really feel like it should have been on our top 10. We completely forgot about it because Terrified kind of really took, you know, maybe that's the stand-in. Terrified is a stand-in for that because it's the same director.
And I mean, that's very, very true. But I also feel like Terrified as an entire film is just much scarier than When Evil Lurks. You know, right. I feel like When Evil Lurks is a very good movie. And that scene literally made me like shriek like no other. But yeah, people need to go watch that for sure. Ruben over on Spotify said, nice list of jump out of your seats moments. Missed one of my favorites. The last scene in the original Carrie when Amy Irving has a bad dream of the flowers by a tombstone.
Right. And people are passing out in the theater apparently from that one. That's one of the most famous jump scares in history, which now seems very, very tame. Right. But it's interesting because we did during our deep dive of Carrie mention that people were just like beside themselves for that jump scare in the theater. So you are not alone. And also, thank you for commenting on Spotify.
That's right. We rarely get those. I love it.
BattleBurrito over on Patreon said, in retrospect, I feel like what made Terrified's jump scare so effective was that the moment felt like it was supposed to be a lore moment. It's like they were presenting us a visual puzzle and inviting the viewer to figure it out. I was actively trying to figure out what angles were being presented and if there was some sort of puzzle or lore to figure out. Normally jump scares don't really work on me like that, and it really got me.
That whole fucking movie.
Yeah, he's mentioning the one where he's looking back and forth through the window panes. Yeah.
Trying to figure out how these things even exist in life. And you're right. I mean, that is kind of a lore moment. Casey sent us an email and said, hi guys, I just listened to your jump scare episode. As always, it was a great listen and I agree with a lot of the top 10 scares. I hadn't thought about The Descent in years, but I do hope you guys cover it eventually.
Oh, we will.
Oh, definitely. Before I got into horror a bit late, I spent years actively avoiding horror films because they seemed to throw me into panic attacks when I did see them. One day during that period of my life, I was home alone and decided to watch a movie from my household's communal shelf. I grabbed a DVD that just had a pic of some women crouching together on the cover. I had never heard of the movie and thought maybe it was about female friendship. I saw it was the director's cut, so I thought, oh, there must be some sex in it or whatever. I went upstairs alone to my room and began watching in the dark. And the movie was The Descent. LOL. My jaw just fell open. I had to turn it off halfway, but I was proud of myself for finishing it the next morning in the broad daylight, with the front door open to the world. Fast forward 15 years, and now, when I watch The Descent, I think, oh, that scene with a room full of bones is probably an homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, probably.
Now, there's another jump scare in that movie that I just remembered, and it kind of made me angry. It's at the beginning, and I think she's remembering like a car accident or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's like a jump cut to that car accident. And I was like fucking angry at that movie because it just got me so much. And it has nothing to do. It's just the Dolby shock.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even in the movie yet to be scared. And I was just like, God damn it.
And another fucking car moment.
Yep.
They say, oh, how people change. Anyway, back to jump scares. I wanted to throw out one of my favorites from The Conjuring. I'm not sure if it qualifies since it is an auditory jump scare, but throughout that movie, the audience becomes trained to know that the clock stops when the evil force is present. Toward the end of the film, there is a moment where the mom of the family is walking around in the dark house checking on her sleeping kids, and you can hear the clock ticking. By then, the audience is expecting the clock to stop, so they are listening for silence. Instead, there's a huge, loud crash as the pictures in the hallway suddenly fall from the wall. That made me jump, the first time for sure. I also like, in that film, how the creepy music box is supposed to show you a ghost in the mirror when the music stops, and the music itself is the most stilted, random, pause-filled tune, so you never know when it will stop, which is nerve-wracking. So props to James Wan for his auditory jump scare work.
Right.
Thank you guys for providing such insightful and funny episodes. Sounds like I have to watch Terrified and Exorcist 3. Happy spring, Casey.
Thank you, Casey, for that very, very long email. I love it when we get really detailed responses from people.
And I really like it when people talk about like how they felt when watching movies. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I really enjoy like a communal horror experience, but I also like listening to people talk about how they felt when watching things alone. Because
Like
that's when I get
Nikki's
scared.
anecdote about an Exorcist 3 and like seeing that in the theater. That must have been amazing.
I mean, I really wish I'd seen that in the theater as a group.
Now, didn't we get another anecdote about that film? Like it was the first THX sound or something like that? Or it was the first like surround sound in theater for Exorcist 3?
It's possible.
Yeah.
I love it. We will definitely be covering The Descent, right? Because it's just a really, really good horror movie. And I love how you picked that thinking it was about female friendship, because it's not.
No. I mean, it kind of is.
I mean, for a second, until some of those women are just like the worst people ever. Good right. Lord. Thank you, Casey. That was a really excellent email.
And thank you, everyone, for all of your comments on our top 10 jump scares. Everyone seemed to really get a lot out of it. So,
yeah, we used to do top 10s at least once a month.
Well, yeah. I think this one it's much more visceral, you know?
That's right.
Right? It's not just like a collection of best movies that is kind of subjective. This is about communal experience.
That's right.
Right? With these jump scares. And so it's like, maybe we can do more stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. And just like we had a suggestion for our top 10 episode, if you think of something that you think might make an interesting conversation for Chris and I to have, then send that our way, please.
Right. From our deep dive into Hereditary, Nikki over on Patreon said, great episode, gents. I must tell you that I just found out that this is champing and not chomping at the bit. This is a very common mondegreen, another word I just learned, and love.
What the hell does mondegreen mean?
I am champing at the bit to look it up. Probably like one of those things like it's my fort instead of my forte.
Oh, okay.
You know, right? Just one of those colloquially we would say chomping at the bit.
Champing at the bit.
That doesn't sound right.
Mondegreen. I'm learning. Alex over on Patreon said, so glad I gave this movie another watch before listening to the episode. My opinion on it has changed completely for the better. So very good.
Oh, I'm glad you changed your mind. Now go rewatch Dune.
Yes. And Dune 2. The Dunening.
DJ Matty Z over on Instagram said, it was so cool to finally see what really brought A24 to the mainstream. I wondered if Hereditary was going to seem dated or cliche, and it still felt fresh and freshly traumatic.
I think it will always feel traumatic when you watch it, no matter how many times you've seen the movie.
For real. I don't know how that would ever get...
Yeah.
It's
what made A24 trauma central. Mitch Butts over on Instagram said, I was unable to complete the film Hereditary, not due to its poor quality, but rather due to its intensely traumatic nature. I believe you can guess at which scene I stopped watching, head hitting a pole. I may attempt to watch it again on a sunny day in the future, but not today. Today I will stick to the 1980s cheese horror.
Right. And that's when some people just don't like, especially parents, they don't want to see kids, get hurt, things like that. Right. So.
Totally. And I feel like that while something bad is happening to that character at that particular moment, I don't think you can see that coming.
People sometimes don't like mean movies, and A24 movies can be mean.
Yeah.
Right. So, and if they just feel a little sick at their stomach and like they're not scared, but they're just kind of disgusted and kind of it just didn't make them feel good, then maybe they need to go on to lighter fare for that day.
And I oftentimes realize that I am like in the minority on things. Like I really like to watch really heavy movies sometimes. Like, like even when I'm just looking for something fun, I kind of like that sometimes, but.
Right. But sometimes things come with some baggage. Like I've been waiting to see Come and See I've been sitting on that movie for like 4 years.
Yeah. And every time we talk about watching it, I'm just like, I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I like heavy movies, but sometimes there's a limit.
Yeah.
But 1980s cheese horror, I will always say yes to.
Rob's New York City over on Spotify said, great episode. You guys were in the zone on this one. Thumbs up, clappy hands.
It was really a good episode. I really, really liked it. I liked our conversation about that, listening back to it. I was just like, yeah, I feel like that was a really good movie to talk about. Like, I'm glad that we waited a certain period of time to talk about Hereditary.
Right.
Like, I feel like sometimes when things go on the docket, we do it at just the right time.
Well, also, I'm glad that we let it breathe a little bit in our minds, too, because it was too mean to me. Like, I didn't enjoy it because it was mean-spirited. Right. And I just didn't feel good at the end of it. And I didn't want to see it again or think about it. Right.
I think both of our ratings grew for that.
Yeah. And sometime past 4 years, 5 years, 6, whatever it has been in 6 years. Yeah. And like it a lot better.
Another comment from Spotify. Mac Daddy over on Instagram said, a Mother's Day classic.
God damn.
I am your mother.
Jesus. From our Shooting the Flames episode back in May, Anthony over on Patreon said, did someone say The Pope's Exorcist was good? Because it gave me the sense that Russell Crowe was using the movie to self-aggrandize, but maybe I didn't watch it long enough and there's a gape in my knowledge.
This is the second time he's used the word gape in a comment.
Right. So I think several people said it was all right, like not as bad as they thought. A lot of people are expecting Russell Crowe movies to be shitty, but like we finally watched the Road Rage one and it was like shockingly good.
What the hell is that movie called? Unhinged?
Unhinged, maybe?
Okay, yeah. And now he has another Exorcist movie coming out. So
called The Exorcism, but he's playing a actor
possessed
who is playing the Exorcist in a movie.
So
it's kind of meta.
Sinistera over on Patreon said, please watch Legion. It's so fucking weird and good and interesting. Definitely horror adjacent.
I wonder if he's talking about the TV show because we were talking about what's his face?
Dan Stevens
versus the movie Legion with Paul Bettany about demons invading the earth.
And angels and such.
Yes.
I have seen the movie with Paul Bettany. I have not seen the TV series, but you have.
Yes. I've seen the first season.
There's more than one season?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I think it's 2 or 3 seasons long.
Oh. Well, you have said nothing but good things about that first season.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Jessica over on Patreon said, I'm sending you guys my dry cleaning bill. I just listened to your Shooting the Flames episode from May when a caller left you a voicemail message whilst going pee. Guys, my morning protein shake flew promptly from my mouth to my giant cleavage and lap. I'm going to call out the mystery PP person as the immediately preceding caller, ranting about perimenopausal at-work rage. No shame in the game, my friend, because girl, same. This made my day.
Well, Jessica, Kimberly over on Patreon said that was some epic peeing. I know the peeing wasn't me because there would have been farting and hand washing. Also, happy to save you from the scary bug.
Right, because I had to kill a bug with her postcard that she sent us.
Oh, that's right. For a minute, I was just like, what is she talking about?
Yeah, I have no idea who called us still to this day. Anyway.
Farting.
From our bonus episode into Return of the Living Dead 2, BattleBurrito over on Patreon said, I happen to enjoy poorly made, cheesy movies. They have a special place in my heart. This movie is legally banned from coming within 500 feet of that place in my heart. What a shithole.
Alex over on Patreon said, y'all hit the nail on the head. This really feels like some unearthed 80s after-school horror special.
That's grab, yeah.
For reals.
From our deep dive into Return of the Living Dead proper, Alex over on Patreon said, absolutely mordant episode, y'all. So glad you got to cover this campy masterpiece. The Tar Man is so adorable to me.
He loves the Tar Man. It's like his favorite monster in horror movies. Rosie Red Leader over on Patreon said, fun episode. Not sure if I missed it, but did you two share your ratings for this one?
No, in fact, Robert told me, hey, you missed that in our notes. Should we go back and record? I was like, nah, people won't care. Well, they did. So I rated it a 3.5 and Robert rated 4 stars.
That's right. And this is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So I feel like, and also we have had a gobbledygillion episodes at this point. I should know what questions we ask.
Right. And I feel like I liked it more on the first watch. And I would have rated it 4 or 4.5 before, but for some reason my rating was a little bit more mordant.
Oh,
I think I'm misusing that word.
BattleBurrito over in Patreon said, listen to this episode after watching part 2. Just hearing the music alone made me appreciate part 1 more. Sames.
Right. From our deep dive into aliens way back, Nibiliu over on Spotify said, your alien and aliens discussions were so insightful, funny, and well-informed. I loved every minute of it. Agree that they're fantastic. Well, thank you.
I have not listened back to those episodes since they came out. I kind of need to go back and do that, probably.
Probably should, because I think Aliens is like a 2.5-hour episode. Crazy.
From our episode counting down the top 10 creepiest love songs from our first February episode ever, Rosie Red Leader over on Patreon said, gave this episode another listen after a couple years out, and I have to add the song Steven by Kesha, another happy sounding stalker banger.
We are threatening to do a part 2 of that as well.
I already have 10 picked out.
Well, there you go.
So I'm ready whenever. Y'all stay tuned. Valentine's Day is just around the corner.
By almost a whole year.
By almost 365 days.
We got some questions and comments. The first one comes from Jessica over on Patreon, who sent us a message and said, random question for y'all. Did you see Late Night with the Devil? And if so, thoughts, please. My friend and I saw this in the theater, and yes, egg on my face, I thought it would be great based on the Rotten Tomatoes score. We'll never do that again. I thought the lead actor was fantastic, but otherwise, I thought it was outright silly. The plot felt crammed together, a nonsensical mess with the plot of a wife. Like, what? No spoilers, but I do get where they were going, but it seemed so forced and cartoonish by the end. I immediately started looking up every review I could to help validate my feelings on this, because I could find nothing. Every review, it seemed, was doing one big circle jerk around this movie. I don't get it. Let me pause there to respond. We did talk about Late Night with the Devil, and we talked about it not this year's, but the previous year's Overlook Film Festival. And probably the year-end episode as well.
I think it got a mention, yeah.
Maybe. But it did not crack either of our top 10s.
Nope.
And so we liked it. We just didn't care enough for it to put it in our top 10 for 2023. But we saw it, a whole year before it came out in the theaters.
Because as we were at this year's Overlook Film Festival, it had just opened up in the theaters. We had come full circle with that movie, for sure. And that movie
was playing at the theater.
It was. We were looking at the poster for it. We were waiting in line for other movies.
Like, that's weird.
Yeah, well, just saw that last year. But that movie won the audience award that year at the Overlook. You know, I mean, a lot of people seem to like this movie, and I think that it's fine.
I don't know who they are, and I haven't met them, but
yeah, I mean, it's an okay movie. I thought it was a really neat concept.
Maybe it's one of those things, right, where they do ranked choice voting, where it's everyone kind of agrees it's good, but
oh yeah,
you know, it's the best movies are always a little bit more contentious, like Witch or any given A24 movie, you know.
Correct. Hereditary all over again.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've seen it and we did talk about it. So go back and listen to that episode from Overlook 2023 and you will hear all of our thoughts about it pretty fresh off that festival.
Yeah. So I don't know how long we talked about it. We talked about it, though.
We sure did.
On another note, she says, have you seen Stop Motion? Visually and artistically, this movie knocked it out of the park for me, but the plot was non-existent. I could say more, but I won't give away spoilers anyway. Just been disappointed by recent craptastic horror flicks, so I'm swearing off new horror movies until Long Legs is released in July.
So, we talked about the trailer for Stop Motion very, very early in the year on a Shooting the Flames episode, and it was released later that month.
Yeah.
We have not seen it yet, but it does look visually very, very creepy. But my fear was that it would have a non-existent plot. So you're kind of like reaffirming that.
It's like people are really making these horror movies even more now based off of an idea that was a short, either was a short or could have been a short, and then they just try and make a feature out of it. Yep. And it just doesn't have much going on.
Doesn't have long legs, you would say. But I feel you on some of these like recent movies. I haven't seen a lot of horror movies from 2024 because they just didn't seem that good to me. And the ones that I have seen have not been great. So I feel like there are some good things coming out and some things that maybe have surprised people, you know, like the First Omen and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm hoping that this year kind of picks up. Otherwise, come January when we do our year-end review, it might be a little womp-womp. Bennett over on Patreon said, "Hey, Tired Queens. Hope you take this as a compliment, but my mom overheard me listening to one of your old episodes and asked me if I was listening to Car Talk on NPR. I didn't expect that, but she said your guys' banter and laughter reminded her of that radio show which my dad occasionally listened to when I was growing up. I didn't remember it well enough to say it myself, but it was amusing to hear her ask that question. I should have responded to her by asking, do I look like someone who would listen to Car Talk?"
Everyone looks like someone that would listen to Car Talk. I've heard that people listen to Car Talk who didn't give a shit about cars because those guys were so awesome to listen to. So that is actually a big compliment.
So is it about cars?
It's legendary. Well, people would call in and they would ask about the weirdest shit. And they'd be like, what does it sound like? And they'd like leave recordings and just like hearing them talk about just like stuff in between too. It became a lot bigger than just about cars, I think.
I mean, we do banter.
And so, yes. Yeah. And so it's kind of like that.
So we will take that as a compliment. And now I kind of want to look up episodes of Car Talk and see if I can listen to it.
Yeah, they're famously famous.
Okay, I'm down.
For being just a fun show to listen to. Lestat sent us an email and said, "Gentlemen, I am well. Though busy and somehow distant from myself, I simply wanted to say hello. I hope you are well. I have some thoughts on serial arson, in fiction and film, of course, that I'll share soon. Warmest regards, Lestat. P.S. You both make more differences in the lives of your friends, fans, and associates than you likely know. Take a moment to appreciate the breadth of your impact. Just for us. Be well."
Aw.
Thank you, Lestat.
That really made my cold heart just feel so much better.
Thus mordant.
Montegreen. Thank you, Lestat.
That sounds highfalutin.
How many things can we fit in there? I hope so. You know what I mean? Like, Kristen and I get a lot out of our recording time. And obviously, we would like other people to listen to us and respond. And you guys did in this Shooting the Flames episode. So thank you guys very, very much. I hope that you guys enjoy listening to us and keep up these comments and questions and voicemails.
Right. And we hope to hear from you soon, Lestat.
Please. Although, if you're thinking about serial arson, I hope that it's fictitious. But if you are committing serial arson, I want pictures and photos.
We got a voicemail.
Oh?
Yes. Someone named Hilda called into the line and left a message for us.
Hilda.
Hello, this is Hilda with Vascular Care of Texas looking for William Lee Stigman. We do have a referral under your name. Please give us a call back at your best convenience to schedule your appointment. Thank you.
William?
Stigman?
Please call the Texas Vascular Access Center.
Okay. Well, there's the two best voicemails we've ever gotten 2 months in a row. An epic pee, minus farts, sadly. And someone missing their appointment.
Thank you, Hilda.
This is why I love to wait to hear these until we're recording. Oh my God.
Just in case William's listening, though.
Just in case.
We're doing a public service.
Please stop leaving our number as your contact information. Or no, wait. Please leave it to everybody.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
We have a new patron. In Hussman over on Patreon became a film sparker, and they wrote us a note saying, I'm thrilled to contribute to your podcast. I'm a newer listener, but since finding your show, I've gone back and listened to every review. Your banter and quips completely slay me, but I truly find your dissection of these movies to be profound. You've given me a much deeper appreciation for some of my favorites while introducing me to some great films. I look forward to every show you post. My husband and I say highfalutin to each other all the time. And did you know, at least at fireworks stands here in Missouri, there are actually a variety box called the Highfalutin. Google it. This year, we're going to play Midsommar on a garage movie screen and light the suburban skies in our St. Louis neighborhood in honor of the Film Flamers. Oh, much love from your friends and fans in Baldwin, Missouri, Maria and Ed Husband.
Well, thank you, Maria and Ed Husband.
Thank you. Highfalutin to you.
Yes.
And when you make those videos of these fireworks, please send them our way.
For real. We'll share them on social.
Well, Midsommar does seem like a really good, July 4th movie. I mean, come on.
We have 2 patrons that actually upgraded.
Ooh, who are they?
CenobiteBetty jumped from Film Sparker to Film Flamer.
Okay.
And Random Dude also jumped from Film Sparker to Film Flamer.
And Random Dude left us many comments too. So thank you guys
For real.
for upping and becoming the Film Flamer tier. But we have to also shout out our patrons at the Film Flamer tier or higher over on Patreon. At the Film Inferno, which is our highest level, we have Call Me Lestat,
Kimberly.
and Penelope.
And at the Film Flamer tier, we've got Anthony.
Ashlie.
Ben.
CenobiteBetty.
Yay. GlazedDonut.
Hey, GlazedDonut.
Jessica.
Lisa.
Nikki. Hi, Nikki.
Random Dude.
Hi, Random Dude. Rosie Red Leader.
Sinistero.
Wallstritch.
And William Skinner.
William, was that you in the PP voicemail?
Why didn't you fart?
Horror news.
We have some housekeeping items to talk about first. Some movies that we have been talking about quite some time and some things that we've seen recently. The First Omen is now available for a digital purchase and Tarot is available to rent.
But Robert will give us a quick 1-sentence hot take on Tarot.
Don't rent it. No, for real though. I watched Tarot in the theater because I was just like, I haven't seen any new horror movies. And we talked about the trailer for that. And I was like, I'm going to go watch Tarot. And me and patron Alex went to go see the movie and it was there.
Right. And so anything that was originally called Horoscope is probably one I'm going to miss.
They probably should have kept that fucking name. For real. Horoscope. The monsters were cool, but the plot was non-existent. It's a gateway horror for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, The First Omen, I've been wanting to see these many months.
Same.
But it is only now available for digital purchase for $20, so I will wait to rent it.
Very soon it's going to be on Hulu.
But more importantly, In a Violent Nature is actually being released in theaters, well, as of basically this recording, right?
Yep.
May 31st in its unrated form. And then soon, I don't know how many weeks or whatever, depending on how well it does, I guess, it'll be on Shudder.
I cannot stress to you enough, listeners, to watch this movie, either in the theater or on Shudder. But if you're a horror fan, you need to go see it In a Violent Nature.
Really, and a slasher fan too. But
Yeah.
we also don't want to oversell it, right? Because the end is a little...
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the ending too, but it's, in my opinion, a very, very good movie. And as of right now, it is leading the pack when it comes to this year's horror films.
It is. We got a press release sent to us, and this is Kristen Stewart and Oscar Isaac. What an interesting pair. Star in Panos Cosmatos thriller called Flesh of the Gods.
Oh.
So this director, if you haven't heard of Panos Cosmatos, which is an awesome name, by the way.
Right.
That's the Cheddar Goblin himself, director of Mandy, Beyond the Black Rainbow, and director and co-writer of Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities episode, The Viewing, if you recall that one. And also this movie is written by Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote Seven, The Killer, 8mm, Sleepy Hollow. Some big movies there.
Ooh.
And The Killer is the one from...
Fincher.
Fincher, who also did Seven. So looks promising. And the summary here says, in glittering 80s LA, married couple Raul, played by Oscar Isaac, and Alex, played by Kristen Stewart, descend each evening from their luxury skyscraper condo and head into electric nighttime realm of 80s Los Angeles. When they cross paths with a mysterious and enigmatic Nameless and her hard partying cabal, Raul and Alex are seduced into a glamorous, surrealistic world of hedonism, thrills, and violence. Why does it sound like that David Bowie?
The Hunger?
The Hunger.
Oh my God, it does. Okay, first of all, they had me at Oscar Isaac and Kristen Stewart.
They had me at Cheddar Goblin.
Nothing's better than cheddar.
Cheddar Goblin.
Panos, Cosmatos. Okay. This is going to probably like set people aback. Guys, get ready to clutch your pearls. I don't really like Mandy. So,
well, I don't know that anyone really does.
Yeah.
I've yet to see Color Out of Space, though, which is supposed to be kind of related, but different director.
Yes. And then I think that just has Nick Cage involved.
Did you see Beyond the Black Rainbow?
I have not.
It has a really great soundtrack.
Okay.
Right. And I don't actually remember the viewing.
I don't either. But this sounds really good. And that's an amazing title. And I really like those two actors, you know, so I would watch this. Next up, the Jason universe. So that would be Voorhees. Horror Inc. announces a multi-platform expansion of the Friday the 13th franchise. The Friday the 13th franchise has been threatening to do things for many, many years, I feel like.
Right. So the new Friday the 13th activations will span a wide range of platforms, from entertainment, games, immersive experiences, merchandise, and more, which will be announced throughout 2024 via @JasonUniverse13 on social media or by visiting official Jason Universe website. Now, A24 had planned to do a Camp Crystal Lake, but that showrunner has exited.
Brian Fuller. Yeah.
Yeah. So A24 says they're still committed to that show. So we'll just have to see what happens. And it'll be interesting to see if this franchise can get off its fucking ass and do something.
There was a lot of like copyright stuff going on in the courts with this.
Right. But they finally kind of figured it out.
Right. And so I feel like everybody kind of wants to do something Jason related because it's been a hot minute, you know? And I know there have been some like fan films and stuff like that have been made, but nothing really official except for that video game that everyone kind of flocked to like 5 years ago.
Right.
You know? So we're due for some Jason. And we had kind of a reboot remake, and that was good to me, but didn't really take off. And so like I'm ready for something. I'm ready for a little Jason in my life.
Yeah.
Give it to me. Mm-hmm. Give me an immersive experience.
Speaking of immersive, Mike Flanagan is officially now set to write and direct the all-new Exorcist film for Blumhouse. So I wonder if this is a reset. I don't think it's going to be a continuation
of The Believer or whatever the fuck.
Right. But Blumhouse really gives me pause. Mike Flanagan, we'll see. His standalones or movies are generally great.
They are generally great, but I feel like we were talking about this off mic weeks ago when they were saying he might do it.
Yeah, and I think we might have even listened to, or talked about it a little bit, maybe last Shooting the Flame. I'm not sure.
It's possible, you know, but I feel like our general consensus when it comes to this is like, please leave Mike Flanagan alone and let him do the things that he wants to do.
Like Season of Goddamn Passage.
For real. I mean, I know Life of Chuck is coming out, right? It's his next movie.
It's supposed to be really good, too.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's a really good Stephen King novella, and I can't wait to see what Flanagan does with it. And I do want him to have some sort of commercial success. And honestly, I feel like if they're doing this just to make up for what Exorcist Believer was, you know, then fine. Get someone like Mike Flanagan to make the movie, but
fix your mistake. Hire good people to begin with.
For real. Like, don't waste the time. But I feel like Mike Flanagan has said things publicly that he wants to do or plans to do, and I'm like, just let the man do what he wants. Like, come on now. Please. And hopefully this is not going to be some sort of long format television thing. It's a film.
Yeah, it's going to be a film. Blumhouse.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great.
They're barely confident enough to make a 120-minute movie. How are they going to make a 1,000-minute movie?
Poor Blumhouse. They used to be so exciting. Finally, a movie that we have talked about on a Hot Takes episode many, many years in the past called Coherence is getting a sequel. So this is coming out 10 years after that movie was first released.
Right. So everyone and their dog went after this director and was like pitching ideas for a sequel or a remake. And so finally he has solidified something in his own mind and has decided to make it. And they are paying him to do so. And so if you have not seen Coherence, we recommend it.
Yeah.
It's a sci-fi horror. I don't know if it's adjacent. I think it's definitely by the end kind of slouches more into horror.
Yeah.
And it's about a comet that flies overhead. You could call it Night of the Comet. Night of the Comet's Coherence. I don't know.
Night of the Comet Party.
And then like alternating realities kind of start to converge, and different versions of people might be a little different and have different problems and kill the different versions without even knowing it.
It's a very interesting movie, and I had some issues with it just because, you know, I'm not really a science boy, but like they were talking about things like physics and whatnot in that movie, and I was like, I don't care, just kill people. But I will definitely watch a sequel just to see where it goes, because I have no idea where a sequel.
Not very highfalutin over here, are we?
I know. Sometimes.
Coming soon.
So first up, we've got Longlegs, which of course is in theaters July 12th. Now we've talked about this several times before in several different Shooting the Flames, right? And this is the, you know, the big talked about horror movie, right? Nicolas Cage is in this and Micah Monroe is in this. I don't know why they picked this. Maybe because it's the intriguing marketing. You know, it's like, why not Arcadian? You know, why not any of the others Nicolas Cage is in, you know? But it's interesting because they are kind of keeping him and his role very, very close to the chest.
That's right. But her role is looking very, very Jodie Foster's-esque of Silence of the Lambs. And, you know, we talked about these teasers that came out for Longlegs, and I feel like their marketing strategy was really, really good. This movie has gotten buzz over the entire year so far, and people are convinced that this movie is going to be like the best thing in horror this year. And I feel like Oz Perkins is probably a part of that. Micah Monroe is part of that. You know, there's a lot of horror cred going on in this. But when I saw this longer trailer, like it made me even more interested to watch this movie. It seems very, very reminiscent of movies like Silence of the Lambs or Copycat, right? Things that we love here at the Film Flamers. And I'm super, super ready for this movie. And I'm trying real hard to keep my expectations down about some of these movies that are coming out, like Maxine and Longlegs and so on and so forth. But I don't know. I'm just ready. I'm ready for July the 12th. And Maxine comes out within a week of this one.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's going to be a good 2-week period at the theaters.
I feel like you were about to say the Horror Horrors here at the Horror Horrors. The Film Flamers, damn it.
Can we change our name?
The Horror Horrors. That's our sister podcast.
The Horror Horse. Coming soon.
Next up, we've got Beetlejuice. Don't say it one more time. And that's in theaters all the way until September, the beginning of September 6th. And this is the full trailer for that as well. And we do get a little bit of semblance of a plot.
Yeah.
With the death of the father, but they're all in that house or returning to that house. Apparently there was some sort of divorce and they're all returning to it after the death. Anyway, Winona Ryder, who looks amazing in this, her daughter, played by Ortega, whatever her name is.
Jenna Ortega.
Is, is saying Beetlejuice because she's, you know.
Because she's also kooky.
A mordant.
She's mordant.
A mordant youth.
Mondegreen.
Yes. She's champing at the bit to release Beetlejuice.
I feel like people were teasing a sequel to Beetlejuice for the last several years, right? And I feel like the internet sort of made this happen in some sort of a way. And I was ready. I was like, yeah, I would love to see a sequel to Beetlejuice. And now that it's here, I'm like, do I though? Do I want a sequel to Beetlejuice?
It looks good. I mean, it looks like another Beetlejuice movie. And it's by the same director. It has the same actors. And I love seeing Moira Rose and Winona Ryder looking good. And Michael Keaton coming back. You know, Danny Elfman's involved. You know, Tim Burton's involved. And in this trailer, they did show the sandworms and stuff like that, their version of the sandworms, but it's all still stop motion.
Oh.
So they're going with the same. They're not doing the Ghostbusters thing where they're trying to make everything look, new, although there are some effects in the new Ghostbusters movies that are retro looking. But this is especially retro looking, very, very purposefully, and I love that about it.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? Again, maybe I keep my expectations low and go into it. I might be pleasantly surprised. What I'm really missing is the Gina Davis of it all.
Right. And the Alec Baldwin of it all?
Yeah. But we will have to see in September when it comes out.
Maybe they'll be around. I don't know.
Well, I think that just about wraps up this episode of Shooting the Flames. As always, we love your comments and questions and emails. So find us on social media at The Film Flamers on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram.
You can email us at tiredqueens@filmflamers.com or call our hotline at
972-666-7733.
Are you ready to call in and champ at my bit?
Worm into my immersive experience on my wide range of platforms. I don't even know. Like we talked about earlier, guys, head over to Apple Podcasts or iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review. We're going to read that on Shooting the Flames. 5 more. I feel like we can do it in June.
Right.
Also, we love talking about our new patrons and getting notes like we did from the Hustmans. Head over to patreon.com/thefilmflamers. Join the family, get all of our bonus content, episodes early, and there's a whole chat going over there. Like people are talking, and it's really just a good group.
More and more and more. It's great. I love seeing it, especially now that it's on desktop and on mobile.
That's right. Finally.
Anyway, coming up this month, it's Pride Month, right? So we're going to be talking about some prideful movies. Talented Mr. Ripley is up first.
And we're following that with a little lesbian French extremity with High Tension.
I am looking forward to both. I have not seen either.
I am looking forward to watching them again, but I especially want to watch High Tension with you.
Okay. Well,
you know I love the Frenchies.
It's going to happen.
Well, Chris.
Well, Robert.
I think it's time for us to go off and stretch our long legs.
And champ at the bit to
have some
mordant.
Sweet dreams. Mordant.
Mondegreen?
I'm going to look that up, like right now, Nikki. I swear to God, as soon as we get off this microphone.
Highfalutin.